Greyhound is a taut, compact World War II naval thriller that manages to deliver tension, authenticity, and emotional weight in just over 90 minutes. Based on C.S. Forester's 1955 novel The Good Shepherd, the film was adapted for the screen by Tom Hanks, who also stars in the leading role. Set during the early stages of the Battle of the Atlantic, the movie offers a focused and unflinching look at the pressures of command during one of the most dangerous duties of the war, escorting Allied convoys across the U-boat-infested mid-Atlantic. At its core, Greyhound tells the story of Commander Ernest Krause, a U.S. Navy officer leading his first wartime mission as captain of a destroyer. Tasked with protecting a convoy of ships making the treacherous crossing to England, Krause and his crew are responsible for navigating the Black Pit, a stretch of ocean where Allied ships had no air cover and were most vulnerable to German U-boats. Unlike many modern war films that split their time between combat and character-driven drama, Greyhound remains relentlessly in the moment. The story unfolds almost entirely aboard the bridge of the USS Keeling, call sign Greyhound, and the tension is immediate. The viewer is thrust into the action alongside the captain, and from that point on, there's barely a chance to catch a breath. This decision to keep the action confined largely to one location has both strengths and drawbacks. On the one hand, it offers a claustrophobic, immersive experience. The audience is locked into the rhythms of naval warfare. The quick decisions, the arcane language, the long hours of tension followed by short bursts of terror. On the other hand, it means that the film forgoes traditional character development in favor of procedural intensity. Tom Hanks brings his usual gravitas to the role of Commander Krause, portraying a man under immense pressure who must make life-and-death decisions while suppressing his own doubts and fears. His character is devout, humble, and consumed by duty. Though the script never gives us lengthy monologues or deep backstory, Hanks's performance is enough to convey the weight Krause carries. What makes the portrayal effective is its restraint. Krause is not a traditional action hero. He's not a swaggering commander or a cinematic caricature of wartime leadership. Instead, he's a deeply human figure, professional, anxious, respectful of the lives under his protection. Every time he issues an order, you can see the calculation, the prayer that it's the right move. Every decision he makes could mean the difference between survival and catastrophe, and Hanks allows that burden to show in small, quiet moments. The hesitation before a command, the distant look after a close call. There is a recurring motif of faith and humility throughout the film. While the movie never dwells on it, it's clear that Krause draws strength from his beliefs. This internal conflict and the quiet resolve it inspires become a subtle but important layer in an otherwise action-heavy narrative. One of Greyhound's greatest achievements is its depiction of naval warfare. This is not a war film filled with romanticized action sequences or grandstanding. Instead, it presents sea combat as a relentless chess game, full of tactics, guesswork, and deadly consequences. Submarine warfare, especially in the early years of World War II, was brutal and terrifying. Allied ships often had little to no warning before torpedoes hit. German U-boats would attack under cover of darkness or fog, submerging and surfacing at will, forcing convoy commanders to react with imperfect information. The film captures this with admirable accuracy. The sonar pings, the bursts of coded messages, the shouted commands, and the sudden explosions all contribute to a sense of authenticity. The audience is made to feel the chaos and urgency. There are moments when the screen fills with radar information, depth charge arcs, and range calculations. These aren't presented with exposition or simplified for viewers unfamiliar with naval tactics. Instead, the film trusts its audience to feel their way through the confusion, mirroring the experience of the crew itself. The sound design also plays a massive role. Every distant ping of sonar, every crashing wave, every thunderous depth charge creates a sensory overload that replicates the psychological strain of combat. Combined with the tight cinematography, it creates a viewing experience that feels almost documentary in nature. Greyhound is an unusually fast film for a war drama. From the moment the convoy enters the danger zone, the movie becomes a non-stop series of engagements and threats. Torpedoes are fired, submarines are spotted and pursued, ships are sunk. The action is broken up by brief respites, often filled with more tension than relief. As the crew waits for the next attack, there's almost no subplot. The movie includes a brief flashback to establish Krause's relationship with a woman back home, but it's more symbolic than narrative. The flashback's purpose is to contrast the calm and promise of peace with the claustrophobic horror of war. But aside from that, the film remains rigidly focused on the convoy's perilous journey. This tight structure is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it maintains a relentless intensity that few films achieve. On the other, it leaves little room for secondary characters to breathe. Most of the supporting cast are sketched in broad strokes. They exist to serve the realism of the moment. Sonar operators, helmsmen, signalmen. But they don't receive individual arcs or emotional beats. This was clearly a deliberate choice, made to reinforce the film's thematic emphasis on duty over individualism. Krause, too, remains largely unknowable. His motivations are clear, but his personal journey is internal. There's no revelation, no transformation. He begins the film burdened by responsibility and ends the same way, perhaps more weary but no less committed. Visually, Greyhound is polished and effective. While much of the ocean and ship work is CGI, it's integrated well enough to remain convincing. The ships have a solid, weighty presence, and the digital water behaves with more realism than one might expect. Storms, night scenes, and explosions are rendered with precision and impact. The camera often takes a utilitarian approach, staying grounded on the bridge or following Krause as he moves between command stations. But there are also moments of dramatic flair, shots of torpedoes streaking beneath hulls, or destroyers carving through rough seas. These images are used sparingly but to great effect, punctuating the film's procedural tone with bursts of visual poetry. The cinematography leans heavily on cool blues and grays, giving the entire film a bleak, metallic atmosphere that underscores the isolation of the convoy. This isn't the warm glow of camaraderie seen in other World War II films. It's a cold, unforgiving theater of war, and the color palette reflects that. Greyhound benefits greatly from its source material. C.S. Forester was known for his meticulously researched naval fiction, and much of that detail survives in the film. The depiction of convoy escort tactics, the command structure of a World War II destroyer, and the psychology of a captain under pressure all ring true. While the film condenses time and dramatizes certain engagements for effect, it remains generally faithful to the historical reality. Convoys crossing the Atlantic were under constant threat from U-boats, and the loss of ships and men was an accepted part of the mission. The Allies did not yet have full technological superiority, and every crossing was a gamble. The film also accurately portrays the complexity of submarine warfare. Destroyers had to predict U-boat positions, anticipate their next moves, and coordinate attacks with limited information. Success often came down to experience, gut instinct, and split-second timing. Krause's character is fictional, but he represents a composite of the many real-life naval officers who faced similar challenges. The understated nature of his heroism, duty-bound, self-sacrificing, emotionally restrained, reflects the demeanor of many actual commanders of the era. Though Greyhound is a lean film, it carries substantial thematic weight. At its heart, it's a meditation on leadership and the crushing responsibility that comes with command. Krause isn't fighting the enemy so much as time, exhaustion, and the looming possibility of failure. He knows that one mistake could cost dozens or hundreds of lives, and that burden never lifts. There is also a recurring theme of anonymity and sacrifice. The enemy is often unseen, a blip on sonar, a torpedo in the water, a voice on the radio. Similarly, the men under Krause's command remain largely faceless. They operate machinery, execute orders, and die off-screen. This reflects the real nature of large-scale warfare, where individual stories are often lost amid the chaos. Faith, humility, and perseverance are also woven into the narrative. Krause prays silently, eats sparingly, and seeks no praise. His actions are not driven by glory, but by the imperative to protect others. This moral core gives the film emotional resonance without resorting to sentimentality. Greyhound is not a traditional war film. It's not about brotherhood in the trenches, dramatic character arcs, or sweeping depictions of wartime Europe. Instead, it's a laser-focused, procedural depiction of one of the most dangerous jobs in World War II. It's a film about the grind of responsibility, the strain of leadership, and the ever-present specter of death at sea. Tom Hanks delivers a restrained and deeply human performance that anchors the film, both literally and thematically. The screenplay avoids melodrama, opting instead for a tone of reverence and realism. The action sequences are gripping, the tension sustained, and the stakes clear. If the film has a weakness, It's that its narrow focus may alienate some viewers looking for more traditional storytelling. The lack of character development and emotional arcs might feel underwhelming to those expecting a broader narrative. But for those interested in a raw, procedural take on naval warfare, Greyhound offers a uniquely intense and respectful portrayal. In many ways, the film mirrors the mission it depicts, precise, disciplined, and guided by a quiet, moral resolve. It may not be flashy, but it accomplishes its objective with skill and purpose.